Masters.
No one can serve two masters, for you will hate one and love the other. You will be devoted to one and despise the other. You cannot serve both God and money. What are you doing?
I was going to get a drink of water, man.
Curb check. Oh, wait. Mic check. Mic check.
I found it.
Curb check's what Dad did earlier whenever we were over at that restaurant.
I knew I shouldn't have been busting on Lane about his parking skills.
Hey, I have great parking skills. I was going to grab me a drink of water. Didn't know that we're already live, but here we are.
Live.
Here we are again, man.
Yeah. Well, hey, welcome into the Next in Line podcast. As you can see, I'm with our normal co-host, Mr. Lane Divin, but joined by another individual here, Mr. Billy Joggins himself. This is my dad, Mr. Billy Pitts. Welcome to the podcast.
Well, thank y'all for having me.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Mm-hmm.
And man, if y'all don't notice, we're definitely not inside the podcast studio this time. A little bit different decor as we sit in a hotel room in Rome, Georgia. Snuck up here for the 3 of 7 project trail race.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty excited about that. I don't know if y'all want to dive into that deal.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I mean, we had 16-hour drive over here.
16-hour drive. It was an adventure. I think Divin and myself jumped in the truck about 8 o'clock.
Yes, 7:45ish, somewhere around there. Yeah.
And hauled butt up to Central Texas to Westphalia area to grab Mr. Billy Pitts here, or jump in the car with him.
Yeah. Yep.
We hit the road and drove through the night and rotated drivers and just kept pushing. Made great time.
We did make great time. It was a good deal.
I'm honestly kind of surprised because we were talking about that pulling into Central Texas. I was like, I don't know, we're going to be there probably about 1:30, 2 o'clock. And we still got in about, 12:30?
I think it was 12:45.
And that was with stops and everything else?
That's right. No speeding.
No, not at all.
Nope.
Absolutely not.
That's right. But here we are now on the race eve of this 3 of 7 project trail race. Little update over here, man. From what we hear, the course is pretty technical as it is, but then we've got some other challenges. It's been rainy up here and a little bit nasty. It's expected to have some rain over the weekend too here. We got a couple down trees, and man,
we got some elevation.
Something the Flatland Running Company isn't quite used to out there with some elevation.
So what were those numbers that you were looking at earlier?
I was looking and saw they keep talking about Jenkins Hill, and I checked the trail maps, went incognito there, investigator mode, and found that we are going to be fighting like 750-foot elevation on that one climb. Even on the hills I was able to get to over there, really looking about 300 at most over there in San Antonio. So
it's gonna be a change of pace.
Oh yeah, over double that kind of thing. So it's going to be an adventure all its own.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's gonna be a good time.
Yes, sir.
Oh, it will. It's going to be fun. The climbing and the downhill is going to be challenging, but it's going to be fun.
Oh yeah, you just got to hammer the downhills, blow them quads up.
Quads out.
Gone, man. Yeah.
Something that we're not used to.
So for those of y'all that aren't used to this side of racing as well, this is a 4, 6, and 8 hour event out there. We're pretty stoked. It's a 4-mile loop that repeats itself over and over, and you just see how many loops you can get in your selected time slot. Lane and my dad here will be running 4-hour time windows, and I'll be running 8. Y'all got some goals out there?
Yeah, man. I mean, for me, with me and my coach, we're treating it like a training run. Supposed to be hitting around a half marathon or so out there. But ideally, I'll knock out 4 loops. Should be about 16 miles or so. So that's on my end at least.
There you go.
That's pretty much what my plan is. I'm not where I want to be shape wise or anything like that kind of stuff. But I think I'm going to shoot for hitting 4 loops. I'm early in my training as well. So, but all depends on what we find out there on the trail.
Yeah, no kidding.
What about you, man? Since you're on the 8-hour?
8-hour, I'd like to push myself out there a little bit more. I think if I can hold like a 12-minute mile average with the downhills and flats working to my advantage, maybe we get 10 loops in. That'd be about 40 miles. That's going to be a pretty big challenge out here, especially with conditions and how technical and how much elevation's on this course. But, man, we'll see. It's exciting. Either way, what I'm really more stoked about is the getting around an awesome group of people, some fellowship, and just having a good time out here in Georgia.
Oh, yeah. Dude, it's freaking beautiful out here. I was telling Kendall earlier, I was like, this is such a change of pace from South Texas brush country or where you're at, Billy.
Oh, yeah.
Just,
yeah.
Yeah, farm fields
Pasture
all
land,
around.
cornfields. It's beautiful out here.
It is. Yeah, we're looking for summer property out here or what?
Hey, when we were driving, I was actually on Zillow looking up properties.
It's a little bit, I don't know the housing market. It's a little cooler up here, though, too. We're ways up north.
Yeah.
Rather than being South Texas down by the equator.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, the atmosphere, just being here with other ultra runners is always great. But then just being here with the 3 of 7 guys is going to be just a group of people that are going to be there. It's just going to be outstanding.
Yeah, I would think so, too. I think it's going to be one of those events that you go to and you go out and you compete, but regardless of the results, regardless of what happens, you just have a dang good time, be around good people, and it's more about what you're doing out there and helping other people reach their goals too. I mean, that's one thing I've been reflecting on. I don't know about y'all, but last time I was out here, I was super green into this world, and I was like solely focused on competition. And that first 3 of 7 project race I ran, I kind of kept to myself and talked to a few people here and there, but it was killer mindset kind of thing, and I really don't want to have that approach out here this time around. I've learned a lot over this course of running for 2.5 years and really enjoy the fellowship side and helping other people, and I want to kind of get out here as a side goal and see if there's some people I can push.
Yeah, no, that'd be pretty dang awesome. And I think that's probably one of the bigger things about coming out here too, just the impact that we can, or the opportunity to make that impact across the board. It's just it's pretty apparent, you know what I mean? So
I'd agree with you. Yeah, well,
but I know you didn't want to dive into the competitive side a little bit, but I also know who you are.
Why do y'all say this?
Did you look at what the top finishers were last year for this?
Top finisher did 44 miles last year.
Okay.
That's booking it pretty hard.
Yeah.
Especially with this elevation up here. I think their mileage was somewhere, I don't know, in the 10-minute mile and sub 10-minute mile for
Gotcha.
even all this elevation and stops and all that good stuff. So
It's moving.
It's moving. We did the Frio Trail run, and the elevation's not near what it is out here. And I think I held a 10-12 out there. So I don't think we're going to be in the money this go around.
Mm-hmm.
But, I mean, you said it best. We know I get competitive out here and like to do that. But I was going to try to have fun, treat this as a training run, live to fight another day in training and not injure myself is my big goal. Been nursing a really, really bad ankle sprain roll thing for about a week, but it's kind of lightened up here lately. So just going to kind of back off and have fun, I think, and see if I can hit my goal.
Yeah. Cool, man. Pick up.
Yeah. Man. Other than that, as we speak, actually, there's some awesome guys out there supporting Rocky Raccoon 50 right now. That is our recovery partners over at Access Recovery. Got old Lane Divin showing the hat off there. Remember, guys, you can mention Next in Line Development sent you over there for 10% off your visit. But I think they're also running a Valentine's Day special coming up, if I saw that right.
They are.
It's like $80 per couple. Get you a good date night to go over there and have a good time.
Heck yeah, dude. I was looking at that earlier. I think that'd be a great idea for anybody up in that Conroe area.
Yeah, maybe me and you could sneak over there and I'm joking. maybe I'm joking. No, but I think that'd be a good spot to go over there and really, I don't know, get something a little different, right? And something great for your health.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think
It's a great experience. I've been able to do it once so far, and it's a great experience.
Yeah, same boat as you. We still need to sneak Lane Divin over there and get him through the process. But
I know it, man. I need to get on out of that chest freezer cold plunge and get into a state-of-the-art cold plunge over there. So.
Dude, it is top notch. What they have going on there is just awesome.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And then you got the sauna on top of it. Right now, we don't have that down in South Texas. I think it's something that we've been kind of looking at here and there.
Yeah, we've come up with several different ideas, some of which were definitely not up to standards for safety or protocol things, but it definitely would get you warm, to say the least.
Get you sweating a little bit.
Just a little bit. It would have the sauna effect, but we'll keep you posted there. We might have to show you all a little insight later on of our rigged up old sauna down in South Texas. But man, we've been having some fun doing some cool stuff. But you, Mr. Billy Joggins, you ran a race over in Tyler, Texas not too long ago, and you've been in the throes of training. You picked up a coach. Man, where first, I guess, start with that race, man.
Oh, you're going to put me on the spot.
I am. Come on.
I mean,
welcome to the show.
And even back it up a little bit. When was the last time we had you on here?
It's been a while. I don't know. It's been a while.
It's been a while.
It's been a while.
Wait, do I get to join in karaoke?
Yeah, you can
this time?
dive in karaoke, Lane. Just if you want to start singing "Hanging by a Moment" or I don't know, some Wonderwall or something, tag it on there. Go ahead.
Hey, don't tempt me with a good time now.
Hey, who knows, man? But
well,
how was that race?
It was tough. It was good. It was something I knew I wasn't quite ready for, but I did it anyway. And had your mom out there as my crew chief. She did an outstanding job, and I was able to better my 50K time for sure over my first one I did. It's not where I want it to be, but it was challenging. It was a lot more elevation than I thought it would be. It's like around 3,700 feet for that race. It's like a 54K.
Oh, nice.
So it ended up being a lot more than that, and tree roots and things like that. But it was all it did really, honestly, was just light a fire in me to want to get back out there and start pushing myself more.
I was gonna ask because out of all these races that we've done, you typically take something away from every single race, right? So, what was that for you this past go around?
I think it just I learned a little bit more about how hard I can push myself, where I can push myself, and then when that dark moment comes, pulling myself out through the other side and coming out on the other side and getting my energy back and all that. So I've been playing with that and learning how to experience that. Mm-hmm. Just convincing myself not to give up in that low spot because you're going to come out of it on the other side if you keep pushing. So
you talked about the dark spot or the low point. What does that look like for you in a race like that?
I pushed my heart rate and pushed too hard in the first loop and basically gassed myself. I kind of hit a wall in the second loop, and I was able to maintain okay, but just I couldn't push myself. And I knew I was in more of a survival mode at that point. And so then I was just trying to make sure I was getting all my electrolytes and all that stuff going on and eating. And then when the third loop came around, I got the second win. I felt it come back, and I was able to push myself and finish the third loop a lot better. So
it'll find that lower gear again.
Yeah. So, you just got to realize that it's not over. It's still coming. You can still, if you got a long enough distance to go, you can come out on the other side. So it's all a learning process. It seems like I learn something different every race. I figure out another piece of the puzzle.
There you go. Well, no, that makes a lot of sense. I appreciate that insight, and it sounds like the exhaustion going a little bit too hard and running that high heart rate for a while over that course of that distance probably cause you to burn some more calories, get behind maybe on some hydration, things like that maybe you didn't pay attention to.
It did, because I blew by all the aid stations till I got back after the 11-mile loop. I didn't stop at any of them. And
Yeah, that'll do it.
and then the second loop when I went out, I started feeling twinges in my calves like they were going to try to cramp. And so I had to back off the hammer a little bit and let things kind of mellow out until I felt like I was coming out of it. So
Do you think you would have ran a different race or could have improved your time even better had you backed off from the get-go and maybe balanced out or did negative splits over time to where you got faster throughout the duration of the race or something like that? Or
I think I should have backed off in the front end. It was a single track trail, and I kind of got out up in the front end of the pack, and so I felt bad about being up there and holding people up. So I was trying to push myself, and I did that for too long in that loop. So yeah, I should have backed off a little bit and then been able to do negative splits throughout the last two loops, especially the last loop, and have some energy left in the tank to go get it on that last loop is what I should have done. Looking back.
yeah, no, hindsight's 20/20 in these things. I mean, we talk about what we're going to do tomorrow, but there's absolutely no certainty in any of the plan. One factor goes wrong, or we get caught up in a moment real quick, and we end up in a bad spot, right?
That's me.
Oh no, yeah, I definitely inherited that from you as well. So. But man,
What
so
was your, if you don't mind, so you did blow past the aid stations on the first loop. Was that part of your nutrition plan? Did you carb load on the front end, or?
I was carb loaded pretty well.
Yeah.
I felt like I was carb loaded and then had plenty of electrolytes in the system. And I felt like I could just blow through the 11 miles and not worry about it. But I shouldn't have.
Yeah,
I
I
shouldn't
gotcha.
have. I just pushed it too hard.
Yeah.
Pushed the throttle a little bit too hard in the first loop.
Yeah.
I redlined it too long.
Yeah.
not to change subjects too hard, but man, speaking of carb loading, if we could pick up a sponsorship from Provinos or Provinos, whatever that was, we
Dude,
just
that's so good.
man, we were carb loading before this race, and we just went to this little Italian joint over here in Georgia. My wife and I went last time we were here for the 3-7 project race, and dude, that sucker is good. These little garlic knots.
I was gonna say them garlic knots, and that I don't recall what that sauce is called.
It's I call it pink sauce. She had some fancy name for it that I didn't know,
Yeah.
but basically it's like marinara and Alfredo sauce mixed together.
It
So
was good.
good.
Those dipped together, man.
That's a killer combo.
Dangerous.
It is real dangerous, man. I don't know. I probably ate a dozen of them suckers just by myself.
I feel like we all did. And I was joking with y'all. I was like, starting to feel them heart palpitations coming on, and
Yeah, blood getting a little thick. Oh, man.
worth it.
Yeah, it was so worth it. But what does training look like for you now on the backside of that? And obviously you're doing another 4-hour event here pretty quick afterwards, but that's not the standard of what you're probably doing, not a normal look in the life of Billy Joggins.
No, I am actually I've got a coach now, and I'm putting a plan together to attempt a 200-mile run.
Really?
I'm just going to throw it out there.
200 mile
miler.
run.
Dang.
Which one is that? And when is that?
September, Cowboy 200.
Cowboy 200. That's in Nebraska, right?
Yes.
Folks, you heard it here. If you're not busy and you want to come do some pacing or crewing in Nebraska over
Come
in
on.
September, come on with it. But man, 200 miles. So what is September? You've got how much time?
About 7-ish months. So we got plenty of time to put a schedule together, and Kelly's already put together a plan for me. So we've already started training. Well, except for this week, I was a little under the weather. So, but yeah, she's already got it laid out. So we're going to be working on several things, is running program, but also strengthening my core and hips and things like that. That's going to really help me in the running.
So that's kind of a change of pace from your last training block with Rocky Raccoon, right?
Yeah. With Rocky Raccoon, I mean, I didn't understand anything about stretching. I didn't understand anything about tightness and how to keep that. And at Rocky Raccoon, that got me in the last 8 miles. The back started going out, and I've learned that it has a lot to do with not just your back, but it has a lot to do with your IT band. It has a lot to do with your SI joint. There's a lot of things going on there that can get out of whack. Hips can get out of rotation. Just all kind of things going on. I think I'm experiencing all those kind of things. So I'm working on correcting a lot of those to help me get further and not have problems with my back in future races.
Yeah, absolutely. That's been something that's been pretty awesome on my side of things, is like actually focusing on recovery and rehabilitation and actually taking care of yourself, which is a wild concept. I don't know if you know that, but
Yeah, not surviving just on piss and vinegar and hatred.
yeah, exactly.
Never used to stretch at all. Just throw on the shoes and take off.
That's right. Burn 5 miles as fast as you can and call it a training run.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
But hey, you hit them 7 or 8 minute miles.
You got some. you can get fast doing it. You just gonna injure yourself for too long. That's all I got to say.
Yep.
But
Yeah.
no, that's cool. Hey man, 200 miles in September. That's gonna be a heck of a thing.
I'm looking forward to it. I'm excited.
Yeah.
I just want to do one. For no particular reason. I just want to do it. I want to prove to myself I can do it.
Yeah, that's correct me if I'm wrong. What's the time on that? It's a pretty tight window.
It's 84 hours, so it's like a 25.12 minute per mile pace that you have to hold. You can't go any slower.
That's with stops. That's with
Sleep. Whatever you do. So you're gonna have to get ahead in the game, on the front end for sure.
Fair enough.
Man, we got a lot of exciting things happening this year.
We
We were talking about that the other day. I don't know if we've really
roll it out
summarized everything for this year for us, but so you're talking about Cowboy 200 September. We got Mr. Chris Barnes, Leadville in August. We got Cocodona for you in May. I mean, those are 3 huge races.
Yeah, I mean, Arizona for Cocodona. We're going out to Colorado for Leadville. We're going out to Nebraska for your race.
We're out here in Georgia
sitting
for
in
this
Georgia
one.
today. Yeah. I mean, we love to punish ourselves with 15-hour car rides.
The van is starting to look real good.
Oh man, yeah. If you got an adventure van you want to donate to us or anything like that, we'd love to
Venture
be part
van
of that.
sponsorship would be awesome.
Yeah, wink, wink. Not begging. But man, yeah, we've already hit Brazos Bend.
Yeah, we did.
Out there this year. It got pushed back into this year, so that was a big accomplishment for our running network. Man, Ashley Forshey and Dan, they're both up in Oklahoma this weekend as well.
Yeah, that's right.
Dan's
That's
doing, I think, a 100-miler, and Ashley's doing the 135. So good luck to them out there.
Absolutely.
Sure, yeah.
By the time this posts, I'm sure they'll already be finished running it. But
Well, we know that they'll both get out there and hammer down like usual. So
yeah, no, dang right. So
It's a cool network of people to be around for sure.
it is. We got some other people lining up their first 50Ks. We got other people looking to do some big events. We've got Lane Diven sitting over there as a giant question mark. He won't tell us all the races.
I was
he's running.
fixing to say, I was pointing over here like this guy won't commit.
He won't. Well, I think commitment's not the problem. I think he wants to make sure he's good, and I get that, but. Man, that hasn't been our style from the get-go. We've just flying by the seat of our pants, so it's a little bit hard to be patient with old Div there.
Man, there's no commitment issues here. It's gotta have conversations with my coach, and it's just stuff that I've been looking at, but nothing that's been discussed fully yet. So.
All right.
Sure, fair enough. I got you.
So you don't want to mention anything that hadn't been discussed yet?
No.
Okay.
No, I think one groundbreaking race of 200 miles, I guess, is enough for just today. But no.
We'll keep y'all in suspense. I'll leave it at that.
But it's nice to see you out there running. It's awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm stoked to get out there for this race. Again, it's just we're looking at it as a training run for me. It's practice, being on the flip side of it, going in and out of the aid station, and just being out there on the trail and extending the legs a little bit, so it'll be nice getting out there.
Yeah, and honestly, it's going to be nice to see you out there on the trail actually running, right? I mean, you've been out there pacing before, and that's not a knock on you. You've taken the role as crew chief in a lot of ways while you were working through bodybuilding block and everything like that. So, man, we've been talking about you getting out there, and you've been wanting to get out there for a long time. So it's actually cool to see you step out of that crew chief role, even though you've been a rock and super supportive for everyone in our group.
Yeah, for sure.
But it'll be cool. Even if you're going to be wearing some topos that are going to leave your feet all blistered and everything.
Hey, I got the goats too, just in case.
We'll break out shoe talk real quick here. But no, man, that's kind of the new things we got going on. We got some fun trips out here to Georgia. Long drive, going to knock out a cool race, and man, exciting stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely, and just having old Billy Joggins join us again.
I'm excited to be here. Glad I can make it, and all that good stuff. And just hanging out with you two is awesome all the time. So, but to be here on this trip is just awesome.
I know, and I can't wait to see Tammy's face whenever she sees that new tat. So
That's right.
Hey,
Tattoo pack.
Are you
2024?
Are you committing to something?
I'm committing you to something.
That's about right.
Plot twist.
Yeah. You played yourself.
I see.
But yeah, no, that's kind of the in and outs of the local and the trip and everything like that. But man, we kind of gave a cold start here and didn't really get a good chance for Mr. Billy Joggins here to study. We kind of decided to do a podcast last minute. But as y'all know, we've been moving through the book of Matthew and the gospel of Jesus Christ as well. And we were hoping to get to continue that conversation today. Now, for those of y'all that have kept up, we are no longer in chapter 5.
Man, took us a few episodes, but here we are.
We finally broke free. We've moved on to chapter 6, and I know Dad here's gotten a little bit of time to study on some stuff, but we hoped he'd provide some insight and tag in. I know he's had some unique experiences in his situation too. Do you want to give any insight to kind of what your background is with all this, where you're at with all of it too, and all that before we dive in?
Going to Church of Christ since I was a little kid, and so everything I learned has been just sitting there on Sunday morning, and it's all been King James Version stuff, and it's all some of it's really easy to pick up on, some of it's a little more difficult to pick up on, even today. And I think that's something a lot of people deal with, but to hear what you guys are doing has been really enlightening and been motivating to me, because I've started flipping back and looking in the book and listening to my Bible app and going through and listening to different versions and comparing, and it's just got me more interested in it again. And so I thank you guys for getting into this stuff, because I think there's a lot of people that probably feel the same way. They're just kind of like, I don't really know where to start in this thing. How do I get started? How do I understand? And this, even though I've been going to church all my life, it's like you seem like you can always pick up something else or a different perspective, when you start looking at it and studying. So it's awesome.
Well, we appreciate that. No, we appreciate you being willing to join us too, and dive into this with little to no prep too. And I mean, it's
all good.
It's going to be a little bit of an adventure. I think we're, like we talk about, we're still super green. We're still learning our whole way through this still.
Yeah.
And we're just enjoying the process of figuring out our own faith as we explore this, and maybe helping some people do their same thing on the other side of the camera,
Mm-hmm. Going through chapter 6, just like chapter 5, there's so many different things that you can pull from it. But I just kind of want to know, before we dive into it all, what was one of the bigger themes that you pulled from chapter 6 that really stuck with you this go around, Chance?
Man, chapter 6 was big for me in the specific ways of the teachings about anxiety and in faith in general. Because, man, I am an over-analyzer. I will beat everything down. I've got to have the answer now. I need my instant gratification of knowing exactly what it is, why it is, how it is, and how it's going to be, right?
Yeah.
How's it going to be? Sorry, breaking into another song for you. But I got to have those things right here, right now. I worry about everything. I plan things to the T. And, man, just going in and rolling through Matthew chapter 6, there's so many great examples of Christ calling it out, from you of little faith to going in and talking about how he clothes the flowers of the field and he provides for the animals and the birds. And if he does that for them, why would you think he's not going to do it for you? And as we move through chapter 6, there's a verse that I wrote in here on my notes, heavy on verse 34 of chapter 6. And that's the final verse of this chapter. And it says, "So don't worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow will bring its own worries. Today's trouble is enough for today." And I think that kind of for me, that was something that stuck with me really heavy because it doesn't. It still leaves a little bit of that room for we do have to worry about things that are at hand. We've got to take care of our business. We've got to be who we've got to be to solve the problems we've got to solve, to do the things we've got to be involved in every single day, whether it's work, whether it's personal life, whether it's our fitness, finance, spiritual, mental health, whatever it is, right? There's an obligation, there's a duty as a person and who has free will to do those things, but also there's no need to worry about the rest because at the end of the day, there's a plan in place. There's a bigger picture, and there's a God that is, at the end of all of this, already has a plan laid out, right? So you can beat yourself to death worrying about it and overanalyzing and thinking and freaking out, but...
Dude, that's me.
Yeah.
I do that bad, and then, but like you say, that's what he's talking about right here. He's like, don't worry. I like that last verse, Therefore, do not worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow will worry about itself. Each day has enough trouble of its own. That is so true and applies to so many aspects of people's lives on a daily,
See, and for me, so I'm on the opposite of that spectrum, right? And I think it's a conversation we've had in the past where it's like, I don't not worry about anything, but I just kind of let it all kind of pan out how it's supposed to, right? It's all part of a bigger plan and everything else. And so for me, it's also making sure I still have intentionality with everything I do, because if I'm not worried about it, which I don't worry about it, but if I don't have that intentionality, then it kind of loses the purpose behind the things I do. Because there is no worry, I guess. I don't know if that makes any sense, but it's something that I'm trying to be cognizant of. Is you don't have to worry, but I don't know, man. I for me, it's just I'm on the opposite end of the spectrum. So
that's fair. I mean, I wish there's many times I wish I had that kind of mindset towards things, and I could make that separation. But man, I don't know how many times I found myself in every aspect just kind of really exploring that and living in that worry rather than living in the moment. And
and I kind of feel like though too, whenever people see my perspective of it, it's like, well, he just doesn't care. But it's like, well, I do care. But for me, it's like I'm not gonna put energy on something that I can't control.
Well, it could potentially be a balance of the two, though, right? Yeah. I mean, and one verse that caught me really heavy, too, was verse 27 in there where it says, can all your worries add a single moment to your life? And that probably has more of the philosophy and strategy that you have towards this, and it's a healthier version because, man, I'm not going to say Garmin's the be-all, end-all for predicting everything in my life and my health stats, but I look on there at the stress indicators and things like that, and man, I don't know how many days I miss my recovery time because I'm overstressed, or I've got this huge orange ring of stress surrounded by this little blue dot of rest, right? And it's because I'm so high-strung and worried about things all the time, and I've actually got a friend of mine that as not so politely said that I care way too much about things. He used a little bit more colorful language, but told me that I need to reel it in and really like back off a little bit and just be a little bit more in these moments and not worry and not let that stress happen, because no matter what we do, no matter how we live this life, we can't prevent all of the worries and woes of the world from coming to us, right? I mean, we could step out of here and get hit by a car tomorrow morning on the way to walk into the expedition to get in it and go to the race, right? I could step over a log and get bit by a rattlesnake tomorrow. Yep. Not to put those things into the world, but you never know, right?
Yeah. No, absolutely, man. I completely understand. So,
on the flip side, though, for you, I'm gonna come to you next. For you, what was your big takeaway from 6?
Man, for me, the biggest there are two fairly big takeaways, I guess, but the one that's more prominent in my mind was the storing treasures in heaven versus here on earth, right?
Oh yeah.
And those that know me know that I'm a pretty big gearhead, and I'm always looking for that next big great thing out there. And if I'm gonna buy something, I'm usually a buy once, cry once type of mindset. So I'm not spending pennies or anything like that on any of this gear, but I place so much value in just stuff, right? But I mean, at the end of the day, what is it that truly matters in our life? Because I'll tell you, I mean, it's not things.
Yeah.
And just going through and going through that section is pretty eye opening for me. And I mean, looking at this verse right now, it goes through and says, for where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. The eye is the lamp of the body. If your eyes are healthy, your whole body will be full of light. But if your eyes are unhealthy, your whole body will be full of darkness. If then the light within you is darkness, how great is that darkness too? And I don't know, man. It's just kind of, again, just eye opening to where I typically place value, and it's all in materialistic things that truly don't matter. And so, there's some different areas of my life that I'm also working on, and just working on those and keeping this in mind helps me kind of take a step back and like, I really don't need this. Like it happened today earlier, actually. There's a clothing company that I like quite a bit. They drop super specific like drops, and so there's limited quantities of shorts and stuff like that. It's like, shoot, yeah. I happened to jump onto the website, unknowingly within that first couple minutes, and there's still stuff there. It's like I can easily buy this. Like I don't need it.
Yeah. No, that's a good point.
And that's just kind of like a shallow example, but anything from shorts to new guns or whatever it may be, like I tend to place value in just, like I said, just materialistic things. And so it's just realizing that's not where I should be placing my value. That is pretty eye-opening for me.
That's fair. I think it's really easy to place your value in what is tangible and what you can hold in your hand and what you have right in front of you.
Yeah.
And it's really hard to remain focused on not only from an aspect of faith, obviously, but in the other things, right? Because whenever you take the instant gratification and you purchase something now, you're maybe not reaching your financial goals on the other side, which is something that's way less tangible, way less in hand, especially if you're working on paying off debt or whatever it is, right?
Yeah.
I keep throwing $50 at this thing that I owe all this money on, and it never does anything, but there's a $50 pair of shorts that I can actually have on my body tomorrow.
Dang right.
Yeah, so I get that totally. I live that
Skies
same.
out, thighs out, baby.
That's right, man. That's right. Dave Ramsey would roll him. He would hate us.
But and the other thing too, just not like the materialistic things that we place value in, but it's also like the sense of accomplishment, right?
Yeah.
And with us, that's essentially why we started going down this track, because that sense of accomplishment just, nothing would ever scratch that itch for us. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that satisfaction was never there. It'd be there momentarily. You finally did the dang thing. Like, all right, what else we got? So.
Well, that's an intriguing thought too, because one of the things of this world and one of the worldly possessions that you have is self, is the body, right? And we often forget that that's a very different thing than what we're supposed to be having faith in and worshiping. Man, I don't know how many times we've talked about this, to where several years of my past life and these accomplishments I've been working towards, and losing weight, getting in shape, career stuff, all of that, I put so much weight in the fact that I did all that, right? Mm-hmm. I was the one that did it. I buckled up my shoes or bootstraps, tied them up, and I got to work and did what I had to do to achieve what I wanted. And while there's a certain aspect of free will to that, and there is the discipline, and there's a humanistic side that if we don't do those things, if we're not disciplined, if we don't work hard, we don't achieve them. but there's a bigger picture and bigger plan, and there's a lot of faith involved in that, and there's a lot of unknowns that we kind of tend to overlook, right? Um, but the value of that lately for me, and finding the fulfillment again in those things, has been seeing that I'm not the one that's in control of it. That while it feels like I've been able to achieve all of these things, all of the worldly things that I actually achieved in hand and chose to do for selfish reasons ended up hollow or empty or feeling less than what they were. And now I'm in a process of exploring the spiritual fulfillment inside of it that actually matters, right? I'm doing these for this purpose to serve a higher thing than just self.
Well, and that brings up, a thought that I just had as you're going through and explaining that, man. What if it's those things that are preventing us from getting to where we're supposed to be?
It's very true.
So, I don't know. That's just something that I was thinking about while you're going through all that. So,
No, I think that's a really good point. I know we've talked about a lot too here. I don't know if you got a spot in 6 that really struck you or hit you. I know you've gone through it briefly here a little bit. You've been looking at other areas of the Bible.
I have, but 6 is a pretty strong chapter in itself. But even the part in the beginning about giving to the needy, so when you give to the needy, do not announce it with trumpets, as the hypocrites do in the synagogues and on the streets, to be honored by others. So you need to do it. You just need to do it with your heart. Help the needy. You don't need to look for fanfare and all that kind of thing. It's to me, it helps you connect with what you're doing. It helps you connect with your inner self. To make that connection to the needy and the act that you're doing. You don't need somebody from the outside patting you on the back. And then the prayer is kind of the same. You don't go standing on the whatever and shouting at the top of your lungs. It says instead to go in a room in a quiet place and praying to the Lord, on your own, so that you are in focus, you're in contact. And to me, that all of these 2 different areas kind of helps you figure out how to be connected to your Lord and Savior, on a more intimate basis, I guess. Does that make sense? What I'm trying to say?
Yeah, no, it makes a lot of sense, and I think that's a reoccurring theme throughout this chapter specifically. That I mean, obviously through the rest of the Bible as well, but through this chapter, it talks a lot about that specific thing where it's much more focused on the posture of your heart and what you truly mean rather than what it is you're saying. And in some ways it takes limitations off and removes pressure, because I don't know how many times before I was like, I don't know how to do this right. I listen to these guys, these preachers and all these people that have been in front of all these individuals, and they're preaching and they're praying and they sound so articulate and they sound so refined, and they know the history and they know all these little details, and they can spin things and connect things together, and just how could I possibly do that? But the truth of the matter is it's not that. In fact, he goes on to say that those specific things and worrying about the words and the chants and everything that is humanistic to a point of you are using the articulate speech, you're using the big words, you're using all those things, you're chanting so that the attention stays on the patterning, so the attention stays on the power and the drive and the feeling behind it and worldly things. Right? Rather than what it actually is in a real intimate conversation, like you said. So that, to me, that makes a ton of sense, and that's something I picked up on too throughout this chapter.
I think it's a great chapter.
There was one other thing too, is I think there's maybe a misconception. I don't think that's necessarily correct. Maybe a misunderstanding. But we go through, and also has the Lord's Prayer on there, and I think a lot of people take that for verbatim, like this is what I should pray every single time. And while I
Yes.
think, it obviously is a great example of what a prayer should look like, it's essentially modeling what our prayers should be, but it's not the prayer. And, it doesn't mean like you can't tie that into your prayer every single time if you want to, in some way, but there should be a deeper intention behind just repeating a prayer that was given to us thousands of years ago.
I agree. It needs to just come from your heart.
Yeah.
It needs to be like a more intimate meaning behind it. It doesn't, it doesn't need to be a prayer that just repeated over and over, the same one exactly over and over every time. Nothing wrong with that, but I'm just saying that if you can take that and, like you say, add that, you can still say say that part of the prayer, but you can also add in your intimate from your heart kind of. I think that's where it's at.
Yeah, I think, it's just kind of a missed opportunity, to kind of form that deeper connection. And again, not saying you can't use it,
Right.
but, go out on that limb just a little bit more and just have a little bit more intimacy, like you said, and just take a dive off into it. So.
Yeah, I think a way to look at it from a more practical standpoint too is we're all individuals that in some form or fashion are leaders, right? And we've at some point had to go to somebody and give praise to them for some reason, something they did, whether it's one of your technicians that did a really good job, or he's holding company values really well, or it's somebody that did a job under us, or they're learning the processes really well, or it's a kid that did something right and you're trying to reinforce that behavior, or whatever it is, right? If you go to that individual and you say the same thing, the same compliment to them over and over and over, hey, maybe somebody cleaned their truck out and it looks really good, or somebody washed their truck really well, and you wash over to them, hey, thanks for keeping your truck so clean. And then you walk by them the next day, hey, thanks for keeping your truck so clean.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, thanks for keeping your truck so clean. What's that going to do eventually? It's going to come to a point where
It takes the meaning away from it.
Yeah, it takes the meaning out of it. It completely makes it hollow.
Yeah.
Right? So adding something in and being a little bit more intimate and having that extra layer. Maybe it is that his truck is so clean and it's something that takes you by account, but maybe this time it's like, man, you do such a good job of cleaning your truck. Like, nobody actually takes the time to go in and vacuum out the floorboards the way you do. Or maybe it's, man, there's not even a speck of dirt on your rims. You do such a good job polishing the rims of your truck. If that compliment is what it is, but maybe it's something other aspect of whatever work.
Mm-hmm.
But it's creating that layer, creating that intimacy, creating that truth, and finding something that is actually valuable within it and portraying that and being part of the message rather than just being a repeated over and over chant or mantra style approach. I guess that's kind of one of the ways I took away from it.
No, man, I couldn't have said that any better.
Yeah.
So.
No, but man, I really enjoyed chapter 6 because to me it was something that was very optimistic in some ways. It did have some warnings and did have some things that we definitely need to be careful of. We dive into chapter 6, and I think it was, verse 24 in here, where it talks about serving of two masters. No one can serve two masters, for you will hate one and love the other. You will be devoted to one and despise the other. You cannot serve both God and money. And it's very interesting. I heard so many different statistics, and I don't remember the percentages on how much God focuses on money specifically. And it's very, very interesting to me in that regard. But I don't know how many times I've found myself in a position of serving two masters since we started this, and I didn't think of it in the same way, right? Because I'd feel a little pull, or I'd feel a little tug, or I'd feel that need or that drive to, hey, you need to go do this, right? But the human side of me, the selfish side, kept me from doing whatever that was, kept me from acknowledging that pull, or I'm in a hurry today, I can't go do that. Or, if I take care of this first, then it'll clear me up to be able to take care of that in a way that's better, and it just extenuates all of that out. So those are also ways of self and serving of self got in the way of myself being one of the masters I was trying to serve, as opposed to Jesus Christ.
Yeah, and I was going to bring up that point too. Like, it doesn't necessarily have to be money either. Like, there's so many other things that we can go out there and idolize and serve instead of God that just gets in the way in place of. So,
Them shorts.
exactly.
Them
Just
shorts.
picking on you.
Exactly. There was one point that I did want to bring up again, just because you gave out that statistic. Wrapping back around to the prayer thing real quick. Interesting fact, whenever I was researching all this, do you know what the divorce rate is for couples in general in the U.S.? I think it's like average of like 30 to 40%, somewhere around there.
Mhm.
However, the divorce rate for couples that actually pray together consistently, only one out of roughly 1,150 relationships end up in a divorce. I think that's pretty dang powerful right there, too.
That is really powerful.
That is powerful. Yeah.
I appreciate you sharing that statistic. Yeah, I don't
Sorry,
know.
hard shift.
No, that was really good.
That's good.
It's just something I haven't really given much thought of now, and I'm trying to like kind of process that.
Yeah.
But
wrapping back around, serving two masters, I mean, dude, I think it's something that we battle with on a daily basis, really. And it ties back to the topic of death itself. Pretty apparently, it's either you're going to go serve this or you're going to do what you need to for God.
yeah, do you have?
No, go ahead.
Well, if it's something that you're having a problem putting tangibly in your hand, talking about the serving of two masters, one example that I wrote down because it really struck me was, and it's a little bit skewed. Don't get me wrong; it's different for everybody. But have you ever had to try to really put together a good work-life balance?
Of course.
Have you really ever tried to sit there and stare at, okay, the fact that I am at work, I've got to handle these specific things, and I don't need to be worried about my personal life, and I don't need to have this phone call coming in, or I don't need to worry about what I've got to do after 5 o'clock, or I don't need to worry about what's going on this weekend. I've got all these people coming over. I got to do this cooking. I got to prep. Got to go to H-E-B, all this stuff like that. Or if you're in Georgia, you go to Publix instead of H-E-B. But
Doesn't
you got,
compare.
No, it does not. H-E-B is the OG grocery store.
It's the goat,
Original
baby.
grocery. But you've got all these things and vice versa. How many times have we been sitting here? Specifically, I can throw some examples out there. On the way up here, I'm on PTO. I'm off. I'm with family and friends and amazing individuals, right? And I'm going to spend some time in fellowship here. But I can tell you right now, my phone will be ringing, work will be calling, work will be invading, and that balance and those lines will be blurred. There already have been on this trip,
Yeah.
right?
I mean, I know they have been for all three of us, actually.
Yeah.
They have,
We've
yeah.
all taken a work call so far.
Absolutely. You have more than one, right? And
Yeah.
and so whenever you experience that, the real big tie-in here is how much stress does that cause you whenever the one that you're focused on is interrupted by the other. It will piss you off real quick if you're anything like me. And you're not supposed to be angry. I know we learned that in chapter 5. Sorry. It's human nature. I'm learning to get better. But it'll stress you out to the max. It'll frustrate you. And it'll create a tension and a stress within yourself that's unhealthy, in my opinion, in my own experience. So that kind of illustrates that serving of two masters. Whenever you got two things pulling you a certain way and you're really needing to focus on one area specifically, but you're pulled by another and it's really straining the posture of your heart, that's something that sucks.
I thought that's where you were going with that earlier when you started talking about this, but yeah, this is exactly right, and it applies to those situations and with work and our trip. It applies with your family time at home with work, or maybe an activity, or maybe you joined a softball team, or maybe there's all kind of things you can that's what I kind of love about the Bible is that you can take a lot of the examples, and yes, they're talking about this specific thing here, but then you can apply it to so many other aspects of your life.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
And you can, it can tell you how to balance that stuff out. So just.
Yeah. And that's what I've really enjoyed probably the most about this entire process is there's been a really, really deep challenge within me to do things the way that I should be doing them and not the way that I've wanted to do them or that I've done them, whether I wanted to or not, historically. And that's something that we can get into fully another time, but it's created such a position to where it really requires you to lean into faith and really requires you to lean into the fact that it is okay to not have all the answers. It is okay to not know where we're going, but it's not okay to let yourself remain there and flounder and cause these issues for yourself even further over and over. Right? And that's, like I said, verse 29 there's, again, why do you have so little faith? Up till a month ago when we started studying this, man, if I couldn't control it, and if it wasn't a tangible thing in my hand, it wasn't going to be in my life. Right? And I, man, it's been a blessing to be a part of this study with you and now getting to share this with you as well. And I don't know, that's just, chapter 6 has been a huge one for me.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And I mean, again, it kind of wraps back around to, one, just trusting the process, just having faith, but that's that opportunity in and of itself is just really leaning into that relationship and starting to build that relationship with God, through whatever times, people are going through. Like that's your opportunity. It's just, obviously it's a lot easier said than done, but, that's the opportunity that it talks about. So
I think so. And
man, it's something that we all go through different seasons with too. There's gonna be times where it's super easy and ain't no thing, and there's others where there's some heavy stuff weighing down on you, and you don't have a choice but to trust Him because it's all you can do. So
yeah, I can honestly say, and I'm not saying I'm some kind of monster out here in this personal development space, but losing 60 plus pounds, running 100-mile race, starting these ultra marathons and things like that, and staying disciplined, training for this 250-mile race. And once I do this 250-mile race, I can honestly say that the hardest thing that I have ever done in my life is placing that faith into that spot and letting it be what it has to be.
yeah,
And it's a
struggle.
It's a struggle. It is. So
It's a struggle, but it's having faith.
yeah.
So
That's how we grow.
I could not agree with you more.
yeah, I mean, shoot, man, I think you just hit the nail on that one. I mean, it's all these situations of being uncomfortable and being out of your comfort zone, and I mean that's exactly where you do grow. Because if you're comfortable, then you're not growing, you're not changing, nothing's improving, or nothing's really happening. So yeah, that's pretty dang awesome.
Yeah.
It is. I did think of something too, and I had it in my notes, and we talked about the Lord's Prayer, and we talked about what that means and in the model for praying. But one thing that was pointed out, it's not mine, I can't claim it. I don't remember where I pulled it from, whether it was in the study section of the Bible or not that I read. But it's also a model for our lives and how we live it, rather than just a prayer and rather than just words. And
Mm-hmm.
I think that that's, whenever I read that, it caught me, because oftentimes, and especially in the past, before we got on this path, I would pray when I needed something, right?
Relate to that one, yeah.
But
I think we're all guilty of that.
And then on the other side of it, what made it worse for me was I would pray when I needed something, and then I would do and find myself in actions that were the antithesis of what I was praying for, result-wise. There's no way that in a world where me and myself by myself, every action has an equal and opposite reaction, right? That's laws of the world. My actions did not reflect the outcome that I was looking for and praying for.
Yeah.
And I don't know how many times that I stepped away from that model and didn't live that life because it was something I wanted, and I was worshiping things on the worldly basis and down here on earth, and things that I could feel in my hands and have and possess more than I ever thought I would need to place faith in anything else.
Yeah.
So, sorry, that just popped in my head.
That's awesome. Yeah.
So, I don't know, man. It's all a journey. It's just enjoying the ride. So,
Amen.
but you got anything else, brother?
Man, I think that grabbed Matthew 6 for me.
Yeah.
You got anything?
I think you wrapped it up for me as well. Absolutely. Oh,
You got
Mr.
some
Billy Pitts.
you got some
Billy
medicine
Joggins
down
got
there.
something.
Oh yeah, I got Dr. Kendall.
For y'all that didn't know, he said it earlier, but Dad almost missed this trip. We were hanging on to the last minute because he was sick, and we were trying to figure out how we were going to make it. He had a fever, cough,
Yeah.
drainage, all that stuff, and we were trying to figure out how we were going to let him recover and
yeah.
still make a 16-hour drive to get up here in time to race this race. But
It wasn't looking good.
it wasn't looking good until he got the prescription.
That's right. Dr. Kendall. This is funny because back in Michael's 100-mile race, you know, we're part of the crew. We're sitting around. At that time, I'm getting over some crud also.
You've been sick a lot there, Captain. We're going to scoot away from you.
Hey, I'm getting on up there in age, you know.
That's right.
And so Kendall's like, well, all you got to do is eat a marshmallow and you'll quit coughing. I was like, what? And so I tried it, and it kind of worked. And so Kendall, being the, let's call her a wise person that she is, she sends these with Lane 2 marshmallows. Take 1 marshmallow twice a day. Doc Kendall. I hope you feel better.
Man.
So thank you, Kendall. I really appreciate it. And I'm going to get you, too.
That's awesome. Man,
Always coming in clutch, man.
she always is. And
You got a good in there, Lane.
Oh,
Dude.
I'm blessed beyond anything I ever deserved.
I got to say, our group of people in our network that we have around this deal, and just in life, not just with Next in Line, but even more than that, this group of people we've been able to gather in around this whole thing has been really cool. The joking, the supporting each other, and just being there, and the good and the bad and all the craziness. So can't say how thankful I am for y'all and everybody else in this deal.
Oh yeah, man. I mean, it's one of those funny things. Like, you know, you can't choose a family you're born into, and obviously we all love our family, but you know, the friends that become your family too. I mean, just an extension of that. It's been phenomenal, man. So I'm truly blessed.
Yeah,
We all are.
same here. Yeah, it's been just a wonderful experience to be able to hang around with you guys and the group that we have, you know. And it's not all localized people either. It's spread out all over the place.
It is.
It's pretty cool stuff. It really is. It's cool to be around like-minded people.
Yeah.
You know, it really is. So, yeah, awesome.
Cool. Well, folks, get on out there, lead the way, and always be prepared for whatever it is.
Next in line.
Take it easy, y'all.
Y'all take it easy.